Okay, so Kal Kadosh, Erev Tov, good evening. The entire concept of Shalom Bayit that we're speaking about over here is a conversation that many times people don't even have. And it's usually not even taught, which is very, very weird. Because if I would right now come and find out that, let's say, one of the teachers in the schools did not have, let's say, for example, a teacher certificate or what's called the teacher licensure, so I'm sure you guys would say, what type of a school is this? What's going on? How could it be that they don't have a certificate? They don't have anything. It's impossible. What's going on? We would never put our child in the hands of somebody that is not licensed. Now, the problem, though, is, were we ever licensed to be parents? So then we ask ourselves another question. Okay, fine. But one which is even more difficult than that is when we speak about Shalom Bayit. Why? Shalom Bayit is actually the longest, right, of even more than the children, because the children only come after marriage. So therefore the question that we ask ourselves is, how do we become educated to live or to study Shalom Bayit? Do we actually learn it? Do we learn how to live, right, with our spouse? And maybe we would say, you know what? Maybe we just shouldn't actually learn it, and that's it. But I'm going to ask you guys a question, and I'm sure a lot of you will be very, very surprised. How much percentage do you have of people that if we would ask them right now, would you marry your couple, would you marry your spouse again? What is the percentage that they would answer yes? And what is the percentage that would answer no?
100%, yeah.
Twice, I will remarry twice my wife.
Not twice, okay. Let's pretend she's not here, right?
3 times.
3 times.
Being honest.
Okay, so very good. So listen carefully. There was a study. How much percentage of the divorce rate in America?
50, 60.
50, 60, right? There's many different numbers. The truth is, if you look it up, it's crazy. But usually they say minimum of 50% in America. Now the question is, of those couples that don't divorce, how many are really happy? Because if you just said that there's 100% couples in America, 50% are divorcing, that means there's 50% left. How many of those 50 are actually happy? That's the question. There was a New York Times study done, published August 24th, 2023. So we're talking about a few months ago. And listen to this. It says a total of 689,308 divorces occurred in 2021, which is approximately half of all first marriages, which means that they end in divorce. We're talking about around 50%. If it's going to be subsequent marriages, which means second marriages, that rate even goes higher. Then now it's not anymore 50% or 60%. It could become even 70. It could become even higher. If it's a third time marriage, which means the more that a person actually already been there, done that, the chances of survival are actually much more slim. Because if you didn't get it right the first time, why in the world are you going to get it right the second time? We can compare this to Amidah. We know in once upon a time, if you didn't have kavanah in Amidah, what are you supposed to do? The first beracha, you don't have the proper concentration, you have to repeat it again. The first beracha. Why? How could it be? You're going to say Amidah, you don't have proper concentration? Nowadays, today, do we repeat? No. Why don't we repeat if you don't have kavanah? Because the second time around, whoever said you're going to do it properly. And then it's even worse. Because you're not a chavruta to Hashem. It's a disgrace. You're going to come in front of Hashem and you're going to say, you know what? I didn't have the proper concentration the first time. Let me do it a second time. But 1 second. The second time, whoever said you're going to do it better. So therefore, that's what happens. But continues the study. Divorce researcher and author Dana Adam Shapiro, she comes and she concluded that 50 remaining percent, 1/3 are unhappy, 1/3 are bearable, which means okay, and then you have the last third, which are happy. So now when you're coming back and you're putting back into percentages, and this is what they're saying, roughly around 17% are happy. Which means 17% of couples, or 20%, let's say even of couples, are going to be happy.
17% of the 50% that didn't get divorced.
That didn't get divorced. So that means if you're taking a global, collection, you're talking about 20% of couples are happy. You could have another 20% or a little bit less than 20, because again, they're in the 50. So a little bit less than 20, again, you're going to say that, okay, we're getting along with life. And then you have another 20% that they're unhappy, but It could be that it was old school. They just didn't divorce for different reasons. But really, Be'emet, they're unhappy. And they would divorce. So everyone, when you're talking about Shalom Bayit, do we have to actually learn it? So one second. If we're not going to learn this is like coming and driving a car without actually learning how to drive a car. This is very, very dangerous. So obviously, we're going to have to come and we're going to have to learn it. There's a midrash. The midrash comes and says as follows. HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants to create the world. He asks the malachim, Na'aseh Adam, should we come and make a human being? Yes or no? Now, it's incredible that we will actually speak about later on, right? In another shiur, what's the inyan that Hashem is asking malachim, should I create human beings or not? He has to ask somebody. It's Hashem. Was he, he's asking for advice. What's going on exactly? But he's asking whether or not should we actually create human beings. The malachim answer no. Why do the malachim answer no? They say he's full of miskon, he's full of cordial, he's full of machloket. Now, if you actually go around the street, you don't have machloket everywhere. It's like you always find fights, this, that, but it's not that it's only machloket. So what does it mean when the Midrash says that when we're going to create a human being, there's always machlokot? Why is there always machlokot? And rather the answer is because people, since they live in society, they need to have a positive figure in the eyes of other people, which means we put on a good show. So outside, when we're going to be outside roaming around, we're not going to see the real you or the real me. And the reason why is because we have to have a good name. We like to have everything very nice. We want to be called good people. But really, be'emet, when it's behind closed doors, that's when the question starts, are we full of machloket or not? And what's exactly going on? So in order to open up our eyes, we're going to have to try to find out the following. When we're going to start, and this is how we're going to start with a few nikudot, but very, very important concepts, which is the concept of how are different relationships and how are we actually educated. So a human being goes through 3 stages or 3 steps. Okay, the first step that a human being is going to go through is actually going to be with their parents. Now, it's something very interesting. Since we're all parents, we can actually say, when we come and we give to a child, do they merit what we're giving them? We're going to come, we're going to give. Is there anything that we have to actually come and we're accepting back? How is the relationship between parent and a child? So if we realize, how is it? What do you give?
One word.
Just give, and like Ariel said, one way. What does that mean? You're only giving. Now, the problem is, we as children, we are starting to educate ourselves, and we are being brought up in a society that what we know is, we expect everything from our parents, that no matter what, they're only givers. They're not takers, especially when we're young and everything. They're only just giving. Do we actually merit it? No. Even when we come and we get them upset, and we come and we do things bad to them, what still happens? They still give us. And they'll even try to convince us to take it. So now, this is actually very problematic. Because then, what's going to happen is that we get accustomed for whatever amount of years, 20, 18, 22, 25, whatever the first years, we are always accustomed to only taking. It's a one-way street. All I want and I love is myself. And therefore, just continue giving. That's all that I want. The second stage is society. Whether it's the people around us, friends, neighbors, right? It could be peers, classmates, anything, people all around us. There, it's the exact opposite. When I want something from someone, it doesn't exist that I just come and receive. I have to butter them up. I have to come and ask them nicely, try to convince them. If you have a person that 24/7, they're just asking you, give me, you're not going to be their friend. After a very little bit amount of time, you're already showing the door, I'm sorry, this is not for me. So therefore, that goes to the exact opposite extreme. That we're actually coming and we're telling the friends, no, 1 second, I need something, I have to try to convince you to give it to me. I have to be very nice, polite, and everything else. Now the question is, how is marriage? That's the third stage. Which one is that compared to? Which one should it be like? Should it be like parents? Or should it be like society around us? That's the question.
Should be like parents.
Should be like parents. Which means that you just come and say, give.
Just give.
Just give. But you're the one that's saying to the spouse, give me, or you're the one saying you have to give.
Both. You should be giving to each other.
Giving to each other. So, right? Everyone agrees or not?
I don't agree.
Huh? You don't agree. So what do you say?
The man gives, and the wife takes, and that's it.
Wow.
Wow.
Poison.
Exactly. Who's a lucky wife? Okay, very good. That sounds good. Anyone else? So the truth is, right, when we're actually going to think about it, it's something incredible that when we're talking about, we were just talking about the society. If you think about it, for example, let's say I have a store. So when I have a store, right, I want to sell. But I'm only going to make sure that I'm going to sell things that people want. If I'm going to have a store and nobody wants anything, right, it's not going to help me. So there's one thing that I want the money. But in order for you to give me the money, I need to make sure that I give you what you want. So that's the concept of the society. What about when we speak about marriage? So now we have to actually just understand that really, be'emet, there's something very, very important. There's a beautiful Ramchal. The Ramchal says in his Sefer HaHigayon, in a book, right, of logic. Listen to this. There's a debate. Remember in the olden days, there was always debates. Debates between, right, the different, whether it's rabbis or other people. So there was a debate between Rabbi Akiva and Tornus Rufus. Tornus Rufus comes and he says, I don't understand. How can you ever dare come and give money to a poor person? How can you dare? Why?
Hashem decided that he should be.
If Hashem decided that they're going to be poor, who in the world do you think that you are, that you're coming and you're going against Hashem? Hashem made him poor. Who are you to give him money? So the truth is, the same question is asked, by the way, by refuah, by doctors, right? That was the heter, a special permission that a doctor has to cure, that it says v'rapo yirapeh in the Torah, that he's allowed to cure. Why? Because how could it be that Hashem comes and he hits someone, which means that he inflicts on them, whether it's a wound, a sickness, and now you're going to come and you're going to say, no, I'm going to do it. I'm going to go to the doctor, I'm bypassing Hashem, and now I'm saying, no, don't worry about it. Hashem, I don't need you. I have a doctor, whatever his name is. So how does that work? But it's a heter. Rabbi Akiva comes and he gives an incredible answer. What is the answer? Anybody knows the answer? What does Rabbi Akiva answer to Nusrufus? This is something incredible. And he says like this. He says, really, be'emet, HaKadosh Baruch Hu created an imperfect world in order for us to invest in it and to perfect it. That's what he says. He wanted us to become partners with him in the world. And therefore, every single time we're going to come and we're going to have an ani, a poor person, and we're going to give them tzedakah, we became partners with them in order to what? In order to give, and now we're partners with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Right? And that, in essence, is already the hint, already brought down by the Brit Milah. For example, Brit Milah, the chinuch comes and it says, how does it make sense? HaKadosh Baruch Hu creates a baby. He already created the child with every single DNA, every single little tiny cell, everything that he needs. But he forgot something a little bit extra. There was something superfluous, which is called the erva, which is sticking out. And now all of a sudden, this foreskin, you have to come. And on the 8th day, we scan every single baby. They forgot, right? You already fixed you go to the factory, fix it already. Right? Think about it. If you already made the mistake once, every single time you have to make the mistake again. Says the chinuch, the Brit Milah was in order to hint to us that we are all born imperfect. And therefore what we need to do is to fix ourselves. How do we fix ourselves? Just like we come into this world and immediately they come and they've cut this foreskin which is on us, immediately comes and we remind ourselves we all have some type of a foreskin. Many times it's on our heart. Many times it's in our midot. Many times it's in the way that we act, we behave. And therefore what happens is we have to fix it. And that's what we're supposed to be doing. Therefore, he says, there is nothing in this world that is successful without someone investing in it. That means if you want to find something that's successful, somebody needed to invest. And if you did not invest, it's not successful. It doesn't exist. In the order, you could take a diamond, right? Which a diamond, you know what levels of pressure that a person, which actually, I remember once when Shiva Leva Shalom came and he gave it comes from the earth, from the dirt. But there's so much pressure which is going in the ground that it comes and it makes something very beautiful. But you're coming and you're crushing and it's coming up very, very difficult. But you have to invest. A diamond just doesn't come out like this. After you come, you take it out, you have to polish it, you have to cut it, everything, until you make it into something worth. If not, it's a piece of glass. There's a huge difference between them. The value is shamayim va'aretz, heaven and earth. So what do you need to do? You need to invest. So says the rabbis, the exact same thing happens, that there's no successful marriage without investment. Meaning if you're going to come and you're going to think, listen, I don't need to invest. Maybe I invested 20 years ago when I got married. Or maybe I invested, or I don't need to invest. Baruch Hashem, my wife's a tzaddiket, my husband's a tzaddik. We don't need to invest. It doesn't exist. Without investment, there's no real marriage. That's going to be number one that we have to understand. So now when we come back to the question that we asked, so 1 second. So what is it exactly that we're supposed to resemble? When we're talking about we started our lives with our parents. Our parents really, they thought that they were doing us a favor, but they were just giving and giving and giving. And they got us accustomed to only taking without giving anything back. Whether we merit it, we don't merit it, whether we're getting them angry or not getting them angry. And now all of a sudden we have the chevra, the society. After the society, which are our friends, which are the exact opposite, that you have to give in order to get back. Whether it's even sometimes even asking in a certain way and making them feel good. All of a sudden what happens now is, what about marriage? So we heard before one of the answers, two different answers, about how's it supposed to be. So therefore, a lot of the people, they actually come and they say that really, be'emet, logic says it should be like society. Why? Listen, at the end of the day, you're asking someone for something. You should try to actually ask in a way that just like you ask from your neighbor. Which means, how could it be that you're going to go to your next door neighbor or a friend and you're going to ask in such a beautiful way, and then you come home, right, and you ask your spouse, and you're telling them, just pass it over. Oh, who are you talking to? Right? Or what's going on exactly? When your neighbor, when you come and you ask them nicely. You want to be with all your manners and polite, and you want to be somebody very nice. So then why in the world, all of a sudden to your spouse, is it going to be any different? Even though the inner feelings should be like your parents. Because you want to expect that. And a lot of times that's what you want. You want that you should be pampered, and that's what you expect that they should actually be doing. So a woman is going to come and she's going to say, you know what? Let me get my husband angry. Is he still going to give me? Why? Because let me test him. I'm going to come, I'm going to get him angry, but does he really love me? I want to see it. Is he still going to give me even though I just made him angry? Is he still going to give it to me? So many times she does that. And all of a sudden the husband comes and he says, but 1 second, right? I act the way that you act, right? Which means it's normal, right? You're going to show me a nice, which means that the way that we are acted with, that's the way that we reciprocate. So you're going to act nicely with me, I'm going to act nicely with you. We're not all tzaddikim like Izzy. Right? That it's only just give and never take. It doesn't. That's he's already in another league. Yeah? But at the end of the day, I would say at least it's going to be like that. But then we have a struggle. You know what the struggle is? Who's the first one that comes? Who's the first one that gives a pull? Which means that many times we're always waiting for our spouse to be the one that's giving the pull. We want to be the one that we're acting after him. Meaning you do a nice deed, I'm going to do a nice deed. You're nice to me, I'm going to be nice to you. But if you weren't, I'm not going to reciprocate because I want to see how you act first. And that already started from our parents. Which means we always were dependent upon our parents to move us, to do the act. So they want us to mobilize, or they want us to instigate or to activate that what's going on. And therefore, what we have to learn is that it only depends on us. We have to start it. It doesn't exist. You have to wait for your spouse. Because the obligation is upon us in order to come and in order to actually, we're going to say, to give that first word. So I'll give a few examples. One example is going to be that every single woman is going to expect that her husband is going to praise her food. Right? Why? She expects it. She wants it. Somebody could come and say, look at the beautiful things that you have. Look at everything that she made. Right? It was incredible food. She expects that. A husband, he expects that when he comes home, that the wife is going to receive him with open arms. Right? She's going to hang up the phone and she's going to receive. Why? Listen, this is only befitting of him. So that's what he expects. Which means that everyone wants that the other one should initiate, that the other one is the one that's starting. But really, be'emet, we have to understand that we have to start. And every single person has to only look at themselves And once we start, that's going to change. That's going to start the domino effect. And again, if we invest, that's the only way we're going to have success. Only if we're going to come and we're going to invest. But now we're going to come, and I'm going to ask another question, which is a very interesting question. Listen to this. I'm not going to ask, why do you get married? Because I already did that in the Beit Knesset for the last 3 weeks, and I got the wrong answer. So I'm going to ask, why are you still married? Meaning I'm going to ask everyone here, not why did you get married? Why is everyone here married? So what are you guys going to answer? I'm not asking you, why do you get married? Right? Because I don't want to go that way again. That we could do another shiur. But the question is, why are you still married today? Huh? To split the bills. Okay, that's a good one. Listen, he's being honest. Okay. Anyone else? Okay, you're happy with the spouse? What you built?
Because when you get married, you become one.
And therefore?
So that's like the other part of your neshama. So you're still married because if you really believe in like your marriage, you wouldn't like kind of like not work on like who you are.
Okay, very, very good. The truth is, I got very good answers now. I think we have to start giving the shiurim to the other couples that are not here, not to the ones that are here. Okay, no, but it's very good. Anyone else?
We're not supposed to be alone. It's not good for the men to be alone.
Okay. You just said something good. Next, anyone else? Nobody has to be shy. You won't get shut down.
Our spouse is the only one that really pushes our buttons, so to keep working on it.
You're saying, okay, that's good also. Very, very good. So I'm going to tell you the only one that really answered the question the way that I wanted was actually Chaim. Right? But listen very, very carefully. There are two motivation factors in a human being. Listen very, very carefully. Okay? This is actually going to be a huge machloket amongst the philosophers. Meaning if you're going to look in the philosophy, you're going to see right, left, and center. What motivates you more? Is it out of the motivation, out of a fear of something that you don't want to do again? So for example, I don't want to become, let's say I'll give the example with food in 1 second. Or is it the motivation of a pleasure? So I'll give you the example just so that we understand. A person went hungry, right? They were starving. They couldn't find nothing. There was nothing kasher. There was nothing. They are going crazy. They need something. So what happens? The next time that they're going to come and they're going to see food, they're going to run to devour the food. Now, why are they eating? Because they're afraid that they don't want to be hungry again. So that's called a fear of being hungry. Now, there's another concept, which is, I like the food. So I'm going to eat because I enjoy it. So now that we have that to do with food, what happens to do with anything in life? So is it that a person, when they're doing something, is it because they want to enjoy? Or is it for the exact opposite? They don't want to be alone. So I'll give you the example to do with marriage. The majority of people, when you come and you ask them, why are you still married? So they'll come and they'll start telling you, listen, if you want to know why I'm still married, we have children together, an apartment together. I got used to it. Society doesn't look good in divorce. Obviously nowadays a change, but they don't look at it, divorce good. In fact, the only thing that he answered is why didn't you get a divorce? But you didn't answer why you're still married. A healthy couple is going to answer because of what I think 3 of them answered here, or maybe it was 4, right? That they enjoy each other. Okay, now each one because of a different reason. Whether it's because they enjoy the marriage, they enjoy pushing the buttons and then they become better, they enjoy, right, of understanding, even if it could be that they don't really enjoy, but they're looking for the positive and not the negative. Now the Pachad Yitzchak, Rav Yitzchak Chutner, right, he comes and he says, the biggest push in a human being is actually fear of not being alone. Which means, and you see this especially by girls, right, when they're not married at a certain age, right? What is their fear? Their fear is they don't want to be alone.
The fear of being alone.
Right? The fear of being alone, right? That they don't want being alone. They want to be with someone. And that happens a lot. And a lot of times, even within marriage in itself. Which means that why does a person want to get married? I don't want to be alone. I want to be with someone. Well, be with someone, but why? Because they don't want to be alone. So there's a push in society that people do not want to be alone. They want to be together with another person. So which one is stronger? Is it that they don't want to be alone, or they want to have the pleasure of being with someone?
Is it one or the other?
Which one?
Is it one or the other?
Usually it's one or the other, but many times they could complement each other. So I'll explain how they complement.
75-25, or is it like either 100% one or
So listen carefully. So usually the most deciding factor is the being alone. So I'll give you the way that it's actually brought down, right? That actually somebody said it beautifully, right? Because they actually said, why is this not then the factor that will keep a couple together? If a person at the end of the day, they got married and they don't want to be alone, right? And all of a sudden, besides not being alone, right? Lo tov heyot ha'adam levado, it's not good for a person to be alone. So therefore, okay, fine. So therefore, what's going to happen immediately afterwards, right? With the entire concept that I want to be with someone. So therefore, why don't people stay married then? Why do they forget? And the answer is because they got used to it. So they forgot what it is being alone. Which means one of the tools that people use in Shalom Bayit is that when you have a couple that they're killing each other, you tell them, you know what? Separate for a little bit. Now you tell them separate for a little bit. Now the question is, why are you telling them to separate for a little bit? And the reason why is because all of a sudden they start remembering, 1 second, when I was alone, it wasn't good. I didn't enjoy it. I'm coming home to an empty table, empty house. I feel empty. I'm missing something. And all of a sudden, it remembers, it puts that back in their mind, and all of a sudden it triggers, and it says, you know what, 1 second. Let me think about this again. Hunger, many times that could have happened just yesterday, so you still remember about it. But other things, especially like by marriage, if you get accustomed that after 20 years of marriage, 30 years of marriage, all of a sudden you forget what it is to be alone. So now a person might say, okay, yeah, let's just get divorced. But 1 second, what happened to this push, this motivation of not being alone? The answer is that people forget. They tend to forget. Now, the way that the philosophers actually come and they say to use both, it actually works as follows. I'm going to give an example that I'm sure, right, women never talk about, but men talk about it all the time. Weight loss. Yeah? So let's start. Right? A person's going to come, and let's say a man wants to lose weight. So he's thinking, you know what? I'm going to probably benefit much more. I have a positive what to gain. I look slimmer. I'm able to run more. I'm able to, play with the kids. It's much healthier. There's a lot of things that a person could actually come and think. So those are all in the benefits. But the thing is, though, that doesn't really push a person to come and to lose weight. It's all in the positive. It's a motivation, but is it that strong? But chas v'shalom, what happens if they come and they tell him, it's either you lose whatever amount of weight, or continue filling the blanks. What happens now? All of a sudden now, they actually lose the weight. Why? Because beforehand, there was something that they wanted. Now, it's something that they must do. They're changing something which is a want to a must. Beforehand, I wanted to lose weight, and now I must lose weight. There's a big difference. The must was because, if not, there's a negative that's going to happen. The wanting was because of something positive that's going to happen. So therefore, what they're trying to say is, what is the biggest push in a human being? It's on the negative side. It's not on the positive. But the way that we're supposed to channel it is to do both. So for example, a person has a company, right? So the first thing is, you're going to say, listen, why don't you actually advertise more? Why don't you come and you try to give more? You could come, you could build the company, you could make it something completely different. If you don't do that, you know what's going to happen. And then, by the way, you come and you say, and by the way, I think the best example is if you're going to do A, B, C, D, and you give them a list of advice or whatever it is that you're doing. By doing that, you first told them that you must come and you must change your attitude towards the company. If not, the company is going to fail. After you already gave them the negative, which now they're afraid, and they say, okay, we must make a change, now you tell them the positive. This is what you're going to change. And you do this. And by the way, I just gave you an example with a company, but this could go with chinuch yiladim. This could go with anything. You first tell the child, listen, it cannot continue going this way. That's it. There's a must. It has to change. Now that there has to be a change, let's go for the positive. I think that maybe we could do this, and this, and this, and by doing that, we'll be able to do it. But once you already told me it's a must, there's going to have to follow something. something will need to actually come and to change, right, in that way. Now that we actually understand that, we're going to speak about differences, right, between men and women, right? Why? We're going to explain like this. The majority cases of Shalom Bayit, if somebody had a malice aforethought, which means if somebody comes and they really want it to be bad, there's a big problem. But then you're right. There's nothing what to talk about. Shalom Bayit, very difficult. But the majority of couples, the reason why there are Shalom Bayit issues is because they're not speaking the same language. They don't understand each other. Now, what we have to understand though is that we think it's a problem with our spouse. But all of a sudden you come, you bring them into a shiur, and you actually teach them that they're almost all the same. So if you think that you're going to get something different, right? They're all cut with the same, they're all made with the same mold. So there's nothing going to be different really. There's always exceptions, right? But the majority are always going to be the same. So therefore, what we have to actually start to understand is that a crisis is breaking of expectations. Right? That's what it is. The person becomes in a crisis because they had an expectations. They thought that I'm going to receive this. And all of a sudden they come and they see it's not true. It's completely different. So what happens? So if we're going to come and we're going to say that it's not like that, all of a sudden what's going to happen is that it's going to be completely different. So how do we do it then? So we're going to have to actually come and we're going to say, right, the following. When we're speaking about the difference between a man and a woman, who is more apt for marriage? Who's more fitting to get married? A man or a woman? Yeah? Everyone agrees? You're going to take that?
Man.
Huh?
Man.
Men? Huh? Men? Okay, so the men are going to say men and women are going to say women?
Who's more fit to get married?
Yes. Who's more fitting for marriage?
Personality.
You're saying it's a personality?
Yeah, it's a maturity. It's not a...
Okay, you're right, but I'm going to... Okay, listen, everyone just heard what he said. He said he wants to say it depends on your personality. But men in general, because again, you're right, there's always going to be exceptions to the rules. Right? There's always... But we're going to come and we're going to say in general, who is more fitting for marriage? A man or a woman?
Must be a woman.
A man
Must
has
be a
more
woman.
to give.
Huh?
A man has more to give.
A man has more to give. But what did you say? Why a woman?
That's not the question. Well, because women have kids, women have children.
And therefore?
But they need a
And therefore-
man to have a child.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Therefore, she has to be married.
No, but the question though is, but who's more fitting? Fitting means,
Fitting
if I'm going to say that who's better in the role?
Woman. A woman is naturally a giver. Like, naturally going to take care
Yeah, it's
of
different
like,
roles,
things.
but the woman in itself.
So listen to this, something incredible. The Maharal says, a woman has a much stronger bond to her husband than the man because she gives her total herself to her husband. And the proof, can a woman get married to more than one man? No. Can a man get married to more than one woman? Yes.
Not anymore.
Now, okay, not anymore.
Yes.
I hear they're coming. They're already right bigotry. We're already coming. We're signing the Cherem Rabbeinu Gersha. But that's what it is. Yeah.
Where's
The what?
where's the guy from
It's okay. You wanted to stay with one.
The Pirkei de Rabbi Eliezer comes and he says something incredible. Listen to this. This is a woman speaking. Yeah. Chava comes and she's going to eat from the tree, and she eats from the tree. Says the Pirkei de Rabbi Eliezer, which is a midrash. She comes and she gives the fruit to Adam Rishon. The question is why? Why is she, if she already came and she fell, why is she giving the fruit to Adam Rishon?
She doesn't want to be the only one.
So it's what?
She doesn't want to be the
It's
only
either that we both die or we both live. Doesn't exist. That's a woman. That's a woman. Right? It's either we both die or we both live. It doesn't exist in any other way. But now we're going to actually come and we're going to prove it. And listen to this. The process already starts from childhood. Where do we see it from childhood? You're going to have girls playing and boys playing. Right? For anybody that has girls, right, when they're going to come and they're going to play with each other, what happens when they leave? Right? So what happens? What? They either cry, or I'll tell you usually what happens is, right, they're going to say, Mommy, I'm just going to accompany her, I'm going to accompany her to her house or whatever, or down the street. She comes there, she accompanies her friend down the street, but then they came back. And then they go back, and then they come back, and they continue going. And you're like, "Hey, well, where did you go?" He says, no, but I was accompanying her. But then she accompanied back, and then we continue going. A boy, right, if he's at your house playing, right, you have to tell your son, no, but walk your friend to the door. Right? Because if you don't tell him, walk your friend to the door, right, he's just like, yeah, okay, bye. Where's he going? He just runs out the door. There's nothing there. There's no connection. There's nothing there. Another place where we actually see it is by a wedding, right? The wife calls the husband, okay, we're leaving the wedding. Usually it's the opposite, but I purposely had to say it that way. Right? So the wife calls out, we're leaving the wedding. Okay, so we're leaving. So you say, okay, fine. You come outside, and you're waiting. 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 20 minutes. She comes out, you're like, hey, what happened over here? I thought you called me 20 minutes ago. Yeah, but I had to say bye. I said, but I also said bye. I said, no, but who do you say bye to? I said bye to everyone. Every single person that I said bye to. But she also did the same thing. But what happened? A woman by nature, she's connected. Connected not only to the friends around her, but to her spouse. She is someone which is connected. And that's by something which is nature. Men, the majority of men, they go through a problem. They call it maybe male syndrome. They call it, you know what happened? A man always wanted to be free. Right? He thought that he's a free man. You see, look at teenagers. They always want to be free. Right? My parents are not going to tell me what I'm going to do, where I'm going to go. I want to be free. Right? And you see this, by the way, with children. Even the small little tiny baby, after a little bit of while, he wants to eat on his own. Why? He wants to be independent. I want to be a free man. What happens? He gets married. Now, all of a sudden, he doesn't realize that he put himself in jail. Right? And all of a sudden, he comes and he says, I don't understand. I thought I was going to have the biggest biracha. And all of a sudden, I get married. And now I have to answer up. Where did I go? What did I do? Who did I speak to? What did they say? What did I say? What did I say? And why did I say that? And why did he say that? And what? And you're like, what's going on over here? Why are you asking so many questions? Right? And you come and you say to yourself, there's something wrong. So what's going on? And therefore, what's the answer? The answer is that you keep on seeing that there's a big difference between the way that a man acts and the way that a woman acts.
And the way that they create also. That it's coming from them.
It comes from the creation, which we're going to see in a second. Yes, 100%. From the way they were created. And that's also the way how they're appeased. But 1 second. So now he comes and he says like this. The women, they're asking questions not because of curiosity. They're asking questions because that's how they connect. Which means that a woman, when she's coming and she's asking you the 10 million questions, it's not because she's being a nag or she feels, I want to be connected. How do I connect? Let's talk. Let's converse. Let's speak. Women, she comes home. Yeah? What does she think when she's coming home? What do I have to do in the house? What does she think? She's going to work. Now, many times she could work and she's coming home and she's still going to work. When a person comes and he tells his friend, I'm going home, what does that mean? What does a man think?
Relax.
I want to relax. I want to sit back. I want to come, take whatever it is. I want to relax. All of a sudden he comes home and what does he see? He's being put to work. He comes and says, I didn't come home to this. Right? I came home to relax. I left work to come home to relax. A woman doesn't see that. Where else do you see this exact same yesod? When a woman feels that she's obligated in everything that she does. And a man always feels that he's a mitnadev, which means I'm a volunteer. How do you see this? When a person's sick. Yeah? If I'm volunteering, today I don't feel that good. What's the first thing I'm going to do? I'm going to cancel. I'm going to call up. I'm sorry, I can't. I apologize, but I can't do it. If I'm obligated to go, and there's nobody else what to do, nobody else can do it. It's me, myself, and I. What's going to happen? I have to force myself to go. A woman, right, she could be sick, she could be with fever, she could be with anything. And what's she doing? She's still working in the house. Right? A man, he's got a little tiny thing, 98 points instead of a thing, 1 point up. What happens? He's sick in bed. I can't do anything anymore. You can't. Now why? What's the difference between the man and the woman? So the difference between the man and the woman is that a man always will come and he's going to feel that he's a volunteer. And a woman always comes and they want to feel, I'm obligated to do this. Now, why is this so important? This is so important in how everything is done with our conversations. How many times does it happen that a husband comes home and he said, listen, I just went shopping for you. So she comes and she says, really? Yeah. She opens up the bags. Okay, this is for your, let's say, adafina. That's for your meat. That's for this. Who did you go shopping again for? Right? What do you mean? No, I went for you. I did you a favor. Right? Or I just took out the kids for you. So what does she say back immediately? Are they you kids, not my kids? Well, you're buying for me, not for you? What does that mean? What's you? What's me? What's going on over here? And therefore, what happens? She says, why? What do you mean you? You didn't do it. It's for us. It's for everything. But again, the reason why is because she wants to always feel connected. And therefore, for her, we're a partnership. And what happens is that for him, he's always, I'm not a partner. I'm always a volunteer. So I'm always helping out. Now, does Hashem want this or not? What does Hashem prefer? Hashem prefers volunteers, or Hashem prefers an obligation?
Volunteer. Volunteer. Of course.
Volunteer.
Of course.
I could bring you two proofs.
I'm kidding.
Two proofs. Keneged.
I'm kidding.
Yeah? He had to answer that because he's a man. Right? But listen carefully. Two proofs against that. First of all, right? Not limud Torah, but a little bit different. You almost got it. Huh?
It was a joke.
Chiyuv v'mitzvot. The Gemara comes and says something incredible. Who gets more reward for learning Torah? A man or a woman? A man. Why? He's obligated to do so. And therefore what? The opposite. Like what he said before. If you're a volunteer, I just did something better. Tosafot says there's a bigger Yetzer Hara. Why is there a bigger Yetzer Hara? When I'm obligated to do it, I have much more of a tendency that I don't want to do it. Because by nature, I don't like being obligated to do something. And therefore, what happens? What happens is I don't want. And therefore, that's going to be the main problem here. That I don't want to do it because I'm obligated. Says HaKadosh Baruch Hu, there's a bigger reward when you're obligated to do something, right? Than if you're not obligated. If you're not obligated, a bar mitzvah boy, it's very easy for him, right? If he's 12 years old to come into fast. Why? He's still not obligated. The second he becomes bar mitzvah, ooh, that's it. He finished what happened? Beforehand, he knew in 5 minutes, whenever I wanted, I could have taken a drink. Now he knows I can't do that. And therefore, what's going to happen? I have a problem. I have to fast. It's much more difficult. But it was just last week's parasha. HaKadosh Baruch Hu comes and he gives us the Torah. What do we answer? Na'aseh v'nishma. What does he do afterwards? Kafa lehem har kegigit. He comes and he puts the mountain on top of them and he tells them, do you guys accept the Torah? Yes. If not, here's your burial. Right? Here we're going to have a big cemetery. It's called, I don't know what. Why does he have to do that? You said, Ribono shel olam, what are you doing? We just said, yeah, na'aseh v'nishma. We just said yes. Says the Maharal mi Prague, HaKadosh Baruch Hu purposely wanted a union, a marriage between us and HaKadosh Baruch Hu. The only way to make a true marriage between us and HaKadosh Baruch Hu, kafal lehem har kegigit. You need to have a bond. That bond has to be when it's an obligation. If it's whenever I want, yes, I'll do it. Whenever I want, I won't do it. You're not committed. And therefore, when we come back to the original question that we asked, okay, fine. So then, who's more fitting for marriage? Obviously, now you're understanding a little bit more. Even when it is washing dishes, you see the difference. Right? When a woman comes and she asks her husband to wash dishes. Right? So therefore, what happens? Right? So just in case, right, I will tell you something that I heard many, many years ago. Right? If you ever are asked to wash dishes, make sure that you break the first 3 or 4 dishes. She'll never ask you again. Right? But let's say you don't do that. And you actually started washing the dishes. I'm going to ask you a question. Are you really meticulous that you want the dishes to actually be really washed? Or you're just doing a chore and just, yalla, let me just get it over with. I wash the dishes, put it back, and that's it. The woman, when she comes and she washes the dishes, she wants that the dish will be clean. Shiny. The man, shiny, not clean, you're right. Shiny. Yeah? Spick and span, yeah? But the man, he just is doing a chore. He doesn't care about the dish. He just, okay, yeah, I have to get it over with. But that you see it in the way that it is, in the way that you're accomplishing how it is. And now we actually come and we see that the Maharal comes and he says something incredible. Also, that was a difference between the Luchot and Torah Sheba'al Peh. HaKadosh Baruch Hu comes and he gives us the Luchot. The Luchot is the written Torah. But after the Luchot, he comes and he tells us there's also an oral Torah. Why is the oral Torah? Written is not enough. Why is written not enough? He wants us to speak. He wants us to converse. So what happens? Now we actually come to the next part. Who speaks more? Men or women?
Women.
Yeah?
It's not a question.
Are you? Okay, so he said it's not a question.
Today, men speaks much more than women.
Oh. Fine, okay. Fine? Yeah, okay. No, fine.
I think
Right?
I actually think, I don't speak.
Fine. Again, there's always exceptions to the rule. Always exceptions to the rule. But what happens though is usually women speak more. Why do they speak more? Right? We think it's something in the negative. Right? Somebody once came to me, Rabbi, how could you say such a... women, there are 10 kabim come down to 10 measures come down to the world. Women took 9, right? Men took 1. What's going on? According to what she just said, then Mamash, it's bad. It's 9 against 1, and she's saying that men speak more. You're taking another 8. Right? What's going on over here? Right? So what's going on? How does that make sense? But rather what happens is that really Be'emet, there's actually a beautiful, I think it's also a Maharal. That I think the Maharal or Rabbi David, I don't remember who it says it, is actually, we're learning the Gemara wrong. When the Gemara says that there's 10 kabim that come down to the world, right, and 9 took the women, what does it say? That there's 10 kabim of, how does it use, what is the language of talk that it uses? Sicha. What is sicha? Sicha is lasuach basadeh. Lasuach is tefillah. Women took 9 portions of tefillah more than men. Why? Because a man, you have to tell him, you have to pray shachrit mincha arvit. If you don't tell him to pray shachrit mincha arvit, how much does he pray? 0. A woman, she doesn't even have to pray. Okay, so she's got the one tefillah, the this, that. But what's happening? She's praying all day. She doesn't need for you to tell her, come and pray. She already has it naturally. It's something completely different. But that sicha is also speech because we become partners. And once we actually become partners, so therefore it's actually going to come and it's going to change everything, right? The way of the outlook of the way that a person is actually coming. And therefore, a woman comes and she tells her husband everything that happens to the day. Why does a woman come and she tells her everything what happened? She comes, she went to the bank, and who did she see? Right? She went to the supermarket and she saw this person, and then she said this person. What's she actually telling? What's the purpose? Right? There has to be a purpose. Why is the woman telling that? To connect. But I'm going to tell you something incredible. I hope that nobody has to go, but we do know that everyone goes. Tov lalechet el bet avel, lechet mi bet mishteh. We're learning smichat chaver now. You have a choice to go to a shiva house, to a house of shiva, or to a wedding. What are you supposed to go? To a house of an avel. Right? We just said it. It's a pasuk in Mishleh. Right? Kohelet, Mishleh, I don't remember which one. Right? We have to go. Okay, fine. No problem. Did it ever happen to you that you go into the house and you think you're in the wrong address? Why? They're laughing. And you're thinking to yourself, I don't understand. What just happened? They're laughing. I just come in, and all of a sudden they're laughing. So what's going on? You know actually what happened? What happened is that really Be'emet, they went and they said a story. And they were speaking about something that happened many, many years ago. And they mentioned something to do with the niftar. And all of a sudden they all start laughing. And they all start smiling. And they're all there. What happened? What happened is that in their mind, they go back to that story as if that he's there. And therefore, even though right now physically he's not here anymore because the person passed away, but in their minds, he's right now present with them. And therefore what happens is that it's inscribed in their mind. So they start laughing. They start smiling. Why? They're living it with him right then and there. A woman does the exact same thing every time that she says something to her husband. Which means she was by herself, right? And she took the kids to the park. She went, she had to go to the grocery store. She was by herself. She always wants to feel connected. So what does she do? She comes and she tells her husband that she went to the park, and this is who she saw, and this is who she spoke to, and this is that. Now the husband in his mind is thinking, exactly, right? What are you telling me? But what she's doing in her mind is, she's rewriting the code, and in her mind, she's saying, I was there with my husband. So he's actually with me. Meaning, I didn't go by myself. I was with him. He was with me. Well, you don't remember? And you're like, well, what are you talking about? I don't remember. I wasn't there. So what are you talking about? You were there. And you're thinking to yourself, I wasn't there. But yeah, you were there. Because for her, you were there. When she came and she told you the story again, she made such a connection that you were actually there. And that's why she's telling it over to you. So therefore, it actually comes, and a man comes and he says, okay, fine, but tachlis, what's the story? But that's always a man. A man will always come and he always wants to know, shura acharona. No, what are you telling me the story for? Right? There has to be a reason, not just for, telling you, well, no, get to the point. Well, that was the point. What the point? No, the point was to connect. Men don't get that, right? A woman comes at 11:30 at night and she comes and tells her husband, by the way, you don't know what happened. He's like, oh, what happened now? So he says, so he starts racing. The man's mind is very quick. So he starts racing. What's the problem? There's no bread for the sandwiches for tomorrow morning. There's maybe there wasn't any detergent for the laundry. Maybe there wasn't this. And the man's running. She comes. You know what happened? He said, what? He said, we didn't have any more detergents. He said, oh, okay, fine. Looks at his clock, 11:30. Okay, I've got half an hour. She's going to ask me to go. So he says, okay. So he's waiting. No, you're going to ask him. But you don't know. But I went to the grocery store. He said, oh, okay, fine. So that means you got it. He says, no, but then I didn't get it. She says, okay, but that means you want me to go. So he says, no, but you don't understand. There was a nice person there. And she went and she told me that, no, but this, and she showed me where it was, and it was in the back in the storage. They got it back to me. They took it out. Fine, perfect. Okay. So he says, but I don't understand. Tachlis, after the entire story, I have to go, I don't have to go. He said, no, but I just told you that I just got it. So he said, so why are you telling me the story? He says, no, but I want to talk. What? You don't want to talk? What happens? A man does not understand. Because a man, for him, he's thinking in his mind, there's a problem here. I need to know tachlis. Tachlis is, what do I need to do? Right? Now, why? Because a man, his language is not like a woman. A woman speaks to connect. A man speaks either to boast, to show off, or to do things that he needs. I need to get things done. I need this. I need that. So therefore, the husband comes, right? And the wife comes and tells him, are you upset at me? He goes, no, why? He said, why don't you talk to me anymore? He said, what are you talking about? I just spoke to you before. He says, what did we speak about? He says, well, we spoke about that, whatever it is, David needs the shoes, and this one will need the dentist. He says, but you didn't talk to me. He says, but I just talked to you. He says, no, but I'm talking about stam, just speaking. Why? What's going on? The reason is because, again, women need connection. And connection is only done by speaking. If we're not going to actually come and do this, so therefore it's going to be a big problem. So what I'm going to do is, I know it's late, so what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to end off with a yesod, and then understanding this yesod will continue from next time, Be'ezrat Hashem. But I just actually wanted to say something incredible to do with the why is it so important to understand the code? We're calling it the code, that whether men are from Mars and women from Venus, whatever the code, each one uses their own terminology. But why exactly do you need to understand the code? And the answer is very, very simple. When you come and you get married, you got married for a purpose, right? Usually a person wants to find someone, a spouse, that is like them, right? And as long as you know how to manage a marriage, you're going to have a lot of success. However, though, when you're doing this, right, you want obviously the best for yourself, because you're not going to get married to do a favor to someone else. Nobody looks for a miskena or a misken to come to get married to. They want to enjoy marriage. They want somebody that they're able to share with life, and they don't want to help someone else. They also want to benefit from it. And therefore, the biggest debek, what we call the biggest glue to any marriage is, he says like this, something incredible. He says, unlike animals, because we'll speak about this next time, the entire concept, the difference between animals and human beings to do with children, he says the human being was, and this is what Chaim said at the beginning, lo tov heyot adam levado was not just enough. It's not good that a person should be alone, but eselo ezer kenedo. I'm going to make you a help. What's the help? He says, between human beings, this is the netziv. The netziv comes and he says that not only are humans are concerned with the continuation of the existence of generations, which means to have children, but also the mutual help that each one needs. And therefore what happens is that the biggest glue is that as long as I'm going to fulfill what my partner needs, you will always have a successful marriage. Because what happens is, if you don't really know what they need, you come and you're working all your time, and you're really not fulfilling anything. And then you get upset, and you're saying, yeah, but I'm doing so many favors, and I'm giving and giving and giving, but it doesn't help. And the answer is that we're not really giving. We're giving something that does not make sense. Right? We're actually not speaking the same language. And therefore it's very, very important for us just to understand that we have to understand what is a male, what is a female, what are men, what are women, what exactly does each one need, which we only just touched the surface. Tonight we only just spoke about the entire concept of the partnership, who's more partnership. There is going to be one thing actually, that men are more partners in a marriage more than women. right? At least they have to give the men one, right? But the majority of the rest are all actually the women. They all actually have the upper hand, right? But what we have to understand though is, how does it work? And now that we know how a marriage works, it becomes very easy, Shalom Bayit. Because then I know, let me speak to the language. Because if I'm not speaking to the language, you're speaking two different languages, you're never going to get anywhere. Okay? Any questions?
So I have more equity?
You're up there. You only just give. But you know what? It's a problem though. Because if you don't know what to give, right? Even if you're giving all the time, if we don't know what to give, we didn't give anything. One of the main things is going to be that you could come and your wife gives you a list, which we'll speak about another time. And you come and you do 100 things for your wife. And then she comes, you didn't do anything. You're like, what are you talking about? I just did A, B, Z. You did nothing. And the question is why. So we'll speak about that next time. It's going to be the same concept. Any questions? No? I guess it was either too complicated or too easy. I don't know. Which one? Huh? Spot on. Okay. Bezat Hashem. So Blina, we'll speak about it the next time. Bezat Hashem.